Hey everyone, it's Jake of Jake's Metal Chat, and here I am with my third episode of my favorite death metal albums, and I have 9 more absolute bangers here for you. If you're a fan of death metal and you don't own these albums, I highly recommend that you pick these up and go and check them out yourselves. Pause this video, listen to them whatever streaming platform you listen to them on, and come back here and watch this video. These are 9 more of my absolute favorite death metal albums, and here we go. The first band I'm going to show you is one I showed in my second episode, but they're worth mentioning again because they're dark, they're evil, and they are filthy death doom with that hint of black metal and funeral doom. Of course, this is Worm with their 2019 album Gloomlord. Absolutely love this album. It was the first one I ever heard, with the track Rotting Spheres of Sentient Blackness, the second track on this album. There is a band picture of them in a wooded area and in Florida somewhere. So somewhere in the Everglades, which I would love to visit one day, because I have been to Florida before, but I love my nature, and listening to this album in nature will be absolutely one hell of an experience. Of course, I'll show the band again because one's wearing a Rochefort shirt. Love that band as well. Still need to get that album in my collection. Of course, let's have a look at the CD. Nice black and green with a silver logo for the band and the title as well there, Gloomlord. And I'll get the book out because not only does it have the lyrics, but it's also got this nice poster with it of the artwork, and this is just really sick. Of course, the put some lyrics in here, and of course down the bottom it says Floridian Funeral Doom, and obviously this album pretty much shows that when you hear it, just the amount of slow, heavy, dark metal that it is. It's just heavy, dark, funeral, death doom with that hint of black metal. Death doom, Floridian death doom with that hint of funeral black metal and funeral doom black metal. They just mix it so well on this album, and I can't get enough of it. Can't get enough of this band. And even when I'm in the woods, and I'm just going to stick this entire album on when I'm on my walk, just literally just go to the woods, sit somewhere, and just have this album playing in my ears. For anyone not familiar with Worm, check him out. Anyone that doesn't have this album, pick it up. I highly recommend it. Of course, I have the CD right here, but I need to get on vinyl. I know Black City Records were selling it. Hopefully, he gets more in. Once he does, I'll be picking up. So once again, this is Worm and Gloomlord. Next one, a band all the way from Yonkers, New York. They formed in 1988. I've seen these guys plenty of times now. About 3 times, I'm going to say. 4 times, because I've seen them in the Netherlands, twice here in Bristol, and then again in London for UK Death Fest. This is Immolation. This is their monstrous debut from 1991, Dawn of Possession. Really cool cover. Love how it, you got the logo there, and then it's just dark red and light reds and black clouds, and pretty much the cover sums up the album. The whole album is just, using that word again, dark, and it's heavy. I've got a band picture there. Ross, and let me just get the other man up in question. No, that was another band I was going to add. Nope. So yeah, we've got Ross, and I'm trying to remember his name because I don't want to look like an idiot more than I am now. And Robert, there we go. I was gonna call him something else. Those are the only two left, like original members left in the band, because I know that the other original members of this band are no longer in it, because they were known as a band. For a lot of people that don't know this, they were called Rigor Mortis from 1986 to 1988. They were called they were called Defcon in 1986, only for that brief time, but obviously called Rigor Mortis. And I believe one of their songs on one of their demos, I think it's their 1989 demo Immolation, that has the song Rigor Mortis. Nope, or might be the 88 demo. Okay, I might have read that. Might have read that wrong, but of course, of course they were called Rigor Mortis. If anyone that saw them back in the day with that name, see if we can get the CD out. Well, a CD, a little bit of cover art there, and I think the book's got more of the same of the artwork there, but a different band picture on the back. Blends in like that. Of course, it's got the lyrics in here. A bit of lyrics in here. Now, the first time I heard Immolation, I was actually a song from this album. Get the butt back in. Bit on, there we go. Was Despondent Souls. That was the first track I heard from this album. I believe it was the first ever Immolation song I heard. It's around 2008. I heard this song and I was like, what? Like, what the hell am I listening to? And it's just one hell of a, and I've got, just one hell of an album. Absolutely, just, it's very underground. I don't think this gets talked about very much. It's been spoken about on some channels, but various other places I haven't heard it been spoken about. Of course, I got the new album out, and just to remind myself, Acts of God, which I really enjoyed, from last year. Absolutely loved that album. But if I'm going to go for an old school Immolation album, it's going to be this one, because it's an album, like I've said before, and I know I say it a lot, but it's an album that people need in their collection. If you are a fan of death metal, old school death metal, this is for that old school death metal in your life. Your old school death metal fan in your life. You know, you love old school death metal, you want this album. You got that special someone who's also an old school death metal fan, get him this. Love this album, love this band, need to see him again. Once again, Immolation and Dawn of Possession. Right, onto a band from Sweden. And I showed this in my favorite metal underground releases. The first episode, of course, being all bands from Sweden. They're from Sala Västmanland, and a mate of mine told me that was I think a little town or village. I can't actually remember, and I had to look at the comment just to remind myself. These guys have been going since 1988. There's only one original member left, and I think it's pronounced Hodkin. And I'm not going to try and say his last name. He's the only original member left in the band. I have met him, and he's actually a really cool guy. This is their debut from 1993. This is Wombbath and Internal Caustic Torments. Really cool album. This is the re-release because it's got demos and a 2013 version of another song on here. But yeah, there we go. Old school Swedish death metal. It's not HM2 sounding this album. I think they did that later on the later releases. There's the CD. A bit of artwork on the book, and no, it doesn't go into like some books, like artworks. The artwork continues onto the back of the album. I think no, there's no band picture of him. Well, there's a band picture somewhere. Or might be under the CD. Probably not. Check. No. Well, there's a band picture, but you can easily go on Google and find them on there. For anyone, again, I do these videos because some people might not know who these bands are. This is a band that everyone should know. Again, you're an old school death metal fan. You're gonna know Wombbath. My friend Johnny is the vocalist in this band, and just to get him up again, another friend of mine's in the band as well. And that being Matt, who's from the band Repulsive Vision. Definitely a band to check out. They're in this band. And also another friend of mine who, it used to be in the band, John, was the drummer from 2018 to 2022. Saw these guys in London the first time in 2017 at the Black Heart, and then again 2019 in Sweden for Scandinavia Death Fest. That was just awesome to see a lot of my favorite Swedish death metal bands, these guys included. And the demo, I've heard the EP, and I've also heard the demo. They're really cool as well. But this album is very underrated. I think guaranteed it got overlooked a lot back in the day, because obviously you had all the bigger death metal bands like Cannibal Corpse, and you had Dismember and Grave and Obituary and Morbid Angel, and all their albums were coming out at that time. And I think this one just got slightly overlooked. Maybe not slightly really overlooked. And I know a lot of these albums get like a really underground cult following. Definitely, this is one of them. Absolute beast of an album. Awesome band live. You don't have it, go listen to it. And if you see it on like the Bandcamp, because all of the links will be down below, pick it up. If you love your old school death metal, you're not going to be disappointed. So this is Wombbath and Internal Caustic Torments. Now on to a band that the vocalist of this band was the first guy I ever had on my chat, the first individual on my chat. And this band I got to see in London for the first time ever, and want to see him again. Absolutely fantastic band, all the way from Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the USA. They formed in 1990. This is their 1993 debut album, and what an album it is. What a band they are live. And of course, I am talking about Mortar Skuld with Dying Remains. My God, this is just monstrous. It's going back to that word again. It's evil. It's heavy and it's brutal. Of course, we've got the back, and it is David Gregor right there. He was the first person I ever had on the chat. First person I ever interviewed after them was my mate's band, Das Holocaustum, who I will talk a bit more about in more videos like this, because obviously the album they released is one of my all-time favorites as well. Will be in a later episode of this series. But yeah, for anyone not familiar with this band, because there's going to be a lot of you who are like, I know this band. I checked this album out back in the day. I saw them back in the day. They're a really killer guy. They're really cool, really killer man. But for anyone not familiar with Mortar Skuld, it's just great, sick, classic American death metal. Old school American death metal. And on one of my favorite labels as well, Peaceville. Love Peaceville. Of course, Autopsy being on Peaceville as well. And the next band that I'll be showing you after this, let me just get my notes. Yeah, it'll be the next band on the list. Just an absolute fantastic band. Let's get the CD. Nice black CD with silver for the logo and the album title, and then a band picture. I think David Gregor is actually the only one on this album that's still in the band today. Yep. Of course, started the band back in 1990, disbanded in 98, and then reformed back in 2012. And they've been going strong ever since. And for death metal covers, this is one of my favorites as well. I got so many favorite album covers. I might actually do a video just showing some of my favorite covers in not just death metal, but thrash metal, black metal, heavy metal, so on and so forth. But definitely one of my favorites, one of my favorite bands within the old school death metal scene. Absolute classic album. Awesome live. Met David in person. Really nice guy. And the other guys in the band as well. So once again, Mortar Skald and Dying Remains. Now, this band is all the way from Halifax in West Yorkshire here in the UK. Finally got to see him last year at Damnation Fest. I didn't go to Damnation Fest this year. I went last year, which was in Manchester, and it's going to be in Manchester through pretty much going forward. This band formed in 1990 on the 6th of June 1990. These guys have been going for since gone June, and we're in November, for 33 years now. And I'm showing his album because it's Death Doom. It's just a pure Death Doom metal album, because all the later ones went more down the gothic route. This is My Dying Bride and their 1992 debut, As the Flower Withers. And look at that cover. A lot of people probably do own this album, probably got it back in the day as soon as it came out. Got the CD there, the book there, and I think there's a band picture. There's no band picture. A bunch of lyrics. Of course, the cover. Everyone will know My Dying Bride, all the later albums that they got into the band at that time. Bit of artwork in there and the CD. Of course, this was released by Peaceville Records back in 1992. Let's get the back again with all the song titles. And I listened to this album on the way back from London, like early this year, mid this year, so going back to, I want to say June, because I went to see Syntonex in London, and then 2 days after that saw Mr. Fire here in Bristol. But yeah, this is just straight. We'll just get straight up Death Doom of the early 90s, and of course here, one of the pioneers of Death Doom, alongside Anathema and Paradise Lost. But all three of these bands, excellent bands, all went down the more gothic metal route, but I love that stuff as well. But if you just want Death Doom on its own, where it's just more death metal, more doom, definitely this one. Of course, it hasn't got the classic logo that we all know, and I love that logo. It's one of my favorite logos. And this is one of my favorite albums by them. I also have their other album, which is actually my all-time favorite by theirs, Turn Loose the Swans. But for Death Doom, definitely this. Because there's no clean vocals on this, none that I've heard. Of course, you've got the violin in there, keyboards, of course, because there's a lot of keyboards and violins within My Dying Bride, and that's what makes them unique. Like with Nocturnus and the Key with the keyboards, That's what made them unique. Every band has a certain thing that makes them unique, and definitely is that. So once again, My Dying Bride and As the Flower Withers. Classic album, pick it up. Now on to the 2 vinyl and the tape, the only cassette tape that I have in here before I get to the last CD. But let's start off with a vinyl. Everyone knows this band. I've shown them a bunch of times on this channel. All the way from Stockholm, Sweden. They formed in 1989. They were once a band called Nihilist, which had Johnny Headland of Unleashed. And I think I just said his last name wrong. Now, just saying Nihilist, you know who I'm going to be talking about. This is Entombed and their 1990 debut from Earache Records, Left Hand Path. Oh, just dirty, disgusting buzzsaw death metal, that HM2 sound. I can't get enough of it. Also got the back of the album, and I didn't get a chance to go to this particular location when I was there in 2019. I'm hoping to when I next go. I think it's just a plain black vinyl, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that. Hang on. It is, yeah, plain black vinyl, but let's show it anyway. It's got that Earache logo right there. Band picture there. And some more artwork there. I know I say this a lot, but there are going to be people watching who's like, I'm not familiar with this band, but I'm like, love Entombed, love Swedish death metal, love, Dismembering Grave, like their debut albums are just. I mean, it is a typical thing to say. You can't beat them. I mean, just that sheer amount of brutality on this album and Like an Ever-Flowing Stream and Into the Grave. It's just pure filth. It's disgusting. And of course, Swedish death metal is just absolute, pure, disgusting, filthy, dirty death metal of the early 90s. And this came out pretty much in 1990, the start of the 90s. Of course, it was being recorded at Sunlight Studios in December of 1989. And of course, cover art by Dan Seagrave, a very prominent figure within the death metal scene. He's done artwork for Morbid Angel, Malevolent Creation, Dismember. The list just goes on. He's done it. You name a band, he's done the artwork for. This album, I love this album. And I know, and I can see what, and there's so many, and I know a lot of you love this as well. Almost got lost for words there. And I know why a lot of us love it. It's because of that HM2. It's because of that raw intensity that this album brings, this band brought throughout the 90s when death metal, obviously because the black metal scene was coming in that time. But this band still kept going with death metal. And obviously this album is an absolute staple of early 90s death metal. So once again, this is Entombed and Left Hand Path. Right, let's get on to the only cassette that I have. It's a band from Tampa, Florida, formed in 1990, disbanded sometime around 2014-ish. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't actually say because I had a question mark by the year. They briefly reformed to whenever the hell they split up. This is their 1993 debut. This is Resurrection with Embalmed Existence, which I have shown here on the channel. But it's just very underrated album. And I've only seen it like a handful of times on other metal YouTubers' channels. This is a re-release from Hammerheart Records. Let's get the tape out, which is nice black tape with a silver band logo and album title, of course. Let's get the J card out, which will have a picture of the band. There we go. And with the vocals, it's not the gutturals you would get normally with death metal. But then I've heard bands where the vocals are not guttural; they're more raspier and more like, a lot of them I've heard have been influenced by John Tardy of Obituary and Martin Van Drunen of Asphyx and Ex Pestilence, and of course, in the Hell of Bullets. He's in tons of bands, and I still yet to see Asphyx live. Cool. Yeah, I think I showed the lyrics there, but I'll show it again. Absolute beast of an album. I'm not sure which one the drummer is in the picture, but he didn't actually perform on this album. That was Alex Marquez, and he played drums for Maverick Creation because he was on the Retribution album. I think that might have been the only one he was on. I'll double check that once I've done this video. He was on the Demolition Hammer album, which I am trying to remember at the top of my head. Let me just get Mr. Marquez up. Of course, he was on Solstice. What's his album? Let's get him up. Where is he, Mr. Alex Marquez? Don't need to actually go on the album itself. Of course, he's credited as playing drums. There we go. Yeah, he was on Solstice. He was on, of course, their 1992 debut, which I still need to own because I actually don't own their album yet, but I have heard it and it's just killer. Played in Brutality in 2015. Demolition Hammer, here we go. Time Bomb, that was the album he was on. Maverick Creation, Retribution, Stillborn. He was on Stillborn as well. Okay, I thought you just did Retribution. I was just... okay, complete mind to boggle, whatever you want to say. But I don't know what else to say about this album. Like, it's just brutal, it's heavy, it's intense. And the first song I ever heard on it was, if I can I get this song title? No, I'll just go on here. Actually, click on the album. First one I ever heard was Rage Within. Sorry, I found a cough coming on. This was released by Nuclear Blast in America, because obviously Nuclear Blast is based in... I hope I got this right, in Germany, originally. That sounds right. If I'm wrong, then comment down below. And then, of course, the title track, Embalmed Existence. Just the whole album itself is just intense and heavy from start to finish. And also, they got a cover of War Machine by Kiss. And it's actually a really cool cover as well, because I've heard the 6 Feet Under cover. I think that cover's better. That's just my opinion. But if you like 6 Feet Under and like that cover better, then that's fair enough. That's your choice and your opinion at the end of the day. But for old school death metal fans, if you're like, oh, like someone who's not too familiar with old school death metal, this is an album that needs to be listened to the most. It needs more attention. Same with, say, Moonbath's album and the last album that I'm going to show you after the last vinyl that I got. One for all of you old school death metalers out there, all you death metal maniacs who love this stuff. It's just punches you in the face. Is that intense? In my opinion, you just put on like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? Love this album, and I think the artwork was also done by Dan Seagrave as well. I love his artwork. It's always just, in a way, quite Lovecraftian as well, in my opinion. You might all have different opinions on that. But yes, here we are with Resurrection and Embalmed Existence. Pick this up. Yeah, pick this up. Sorry. Sorry about. Pick this up and just play the hell out of it. Once again, Resurrection and Embalmed Existence. Right, the last vinyl I got here, this band is all the way from Birmingham, here in the UK, of course, and formed in 1989, which had Barney Greenway of Napalm Death. He was in this band, and they are playing Beyond the Grave in London Saturday. This Saturday coming. I'm not going to be able to make it because I've already got some plans around that time, that pretty much that same day, so I can. So it's going to be a bit late for me to get a ticket, book a hotel, and whatnot. You know, all last minute, but I hope to see these guys again soon. I hope they come back to the UK and do some more shows because I saw them at Bloodstock when they still had David Hunt on vocals, and now they got the master himself, David Ingram, back on vocals. This was the first album he was ever on. This is their 1991 album called This is Benediction with the Grand Leveler. Got this at Black City Records because I got the sleeve here with 1991 first press, and there's a band picture there. And another band picture there. And band pictures on the back. And first song I ever heard from this album was Jumping at Shadows, which has guest vocals from Carl Willits. Doesn't say here, but I have looked and it is Carl Willits, who I've also had on the chat. As you know, if you watched my chats, and I will put those in the description below for anyone that has not checked out those chats yet, or I might stick them up here somewhere, not sure yet, but they'll be somewhere. But yeah, again, with albums that I don't think get mentioned or even got overlooked, and I think this album might have got overlooked quite a bit. So I'm sorry about the glare with this light. I don't know what to do about that. The artwork was done by well, I'm not actually sure what that is. I'll just show the name there. If you can see it, I'm going to get a proper HD camera to put on my laptop so you can see all these better. But yeah, this is one hell of a great death metal album, just an awesome death metal album. Of course, I mentioned him in my Bimageddon video because I saw his band he formed after this. I'm going blank now. Absolution, that's it. Because he formed that band. This was obviously the band he was in before, Mr. Paul Adams. I asked the members of that band if they'd seen him since. No, they haven't seen him since he left the band, I think. But this was obviously the first band he was ever in. This album's absolutely just top notch. Same with the debut, Subconscious Terror, which had Bonnie on it. The only albums had Bonnie on it. And of course, the demo. And there is footage of Bonnie with Benediction in 1990 here on YouTube. How do I know? Because I found it. But this album here is sick. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorites from the year of 1991 and just in 90s death metal in general and British death metal. The vocals on it, the guitars, bass, drums. Same with all the other albums that I've spoken about. I just love it all. I love death metal, and this is just one of those. It's just absolute, just top notch, old school death metal from start to finish. All the songs from start to finish, just yeah, just can't get enough. Once again, this is Benediction and the Grand Leveler. Now on to the last album that I have. I mentioned this on my favorite underground metal releases, episode 1, Sweden. These guys are from Stockholm, Sweden. They formed in 1989, and I'm not sure when about they disbanded, but somewhere around late 2000s. That's my only assumption. That's when they would have split up. I have their only album to date, the only album they ever did. This is from 1993, and a lot of great death metal albums came out that year, and a lot of other great albums from like Doom and black metal, and a lot of great albums came out in 93. This is one of them. Another one I think got overlooked quite a lot. This is Excruciate and Passage of Life. And of course, when you look at the artwork, you might think, oh, that's very Dan Seagrave. It wasn't Dan Seagrave, it was someone else. I don't think it's got his name or whoever did this. No. Oh, I can actually look this up. Let's screw sheet 8. Of course, because they said they reformed back in 2006, but I'm not sure whenabouts they would have disbanded. Like cover artwork by Christian. Christian. I'm not going to try to say his last name, but he was in the band Grotesque and various other bands within the Swedish death metal scene. Sorry about that. I was trying to remember. If because I recognise now. I was trying to think what bands I've seen, but anyway. And I mentioned Christopher von Ferrian. He was in this band, and if I get on here, I think he was on the first demo. I believe, he was on the first demo. He did vocals on the demo, and then I think there was other members of Ferrian that also played on here. One member of Fidrick, not going to try and say his last name, plays in Dark Funeral, was in Grave for a time, and of course, Per was the drummer for Carbonized, like I mentioned in my Metal Vault episode about Carbonized. Let's get CD there. And there's the band themselves. I know I showed this in my Metal Underground Releases Swedish episode, but there you go. And I actually do follow him on Instagram. And I've been trying to get him here on the chat. But I think he's been busy lately. Where is he? Lars, that's it. Yeah, Lars. So I got him on Instagram. I follow him on Instagram. He follows me on Instagram as well. But yeah, this is an album. Great underground Swedish death metal. It's not HM2 style. It's not that HM2 sound. But there's a lot of Swedish bands that I've checked out from the early 90s that weren't very HM2 anyway, but obviously are Swedish death metal bands. And yeah, I love this album. It's absolutely one of the best underground albums I've heard. There's so many I've heard. This is just one of many. Got overlooked, I think, because of all the other bigger death metal bands that were coming out at that time and releasing albums at that time. And along with Carbonized as well, this album, Singing Salvation by Epitaph got overlooked as well. And it's a shame, really, because this is a really, really great release. It's just a great staple for Swedish death metal. It's just one of those great hidden gems that no one really took notice of, I think, anyway. But there's probably those watching, like, I took notice. I got this album back in the day. But to be honest, this one, the Winterlon, Full of Security, Seeming Salvation, and not just Swedish death metal bands, that there's Dutch death metal bands that got overlooked, albums that got overlooked, and French and German and Spanish and Italian. So many bands that released albums around that time got overlooked because all the other bands. And I'm glad I own something like this, and also this, because this is also a hidden gem, as well as Internal Caustic Torments by Woundbath, another classic, awesome, sick hidden gem as well. And that's in that list. Once again, this is Excruciate with Passage of Life, and that is the end of episode 3 of my favorite death metal albums. I have another episode coming up next Wednesday, as well as another episode of My Metal Vault this Saturday coming, and another Metal Vault episode Tuesday, and the chat on Tuesday as well. And I just have a lot of these videos. These are the videos that I'll be doing pretty much the most until I go to another gig and, you know, film a band there, just like one song of the band and stick it on the channel. But yeah, these are a lot of albums. I know people are going to know My Dying Bride, Entombed, and Benediction, and Let's Get My Notes Again, and Worm and Immolation, Mortis Goblet. And again, people may not know these bands at all. But like the ones I think need more attention, like Woundbath and Excruciate, Worm definitely, Epitaph, even though I haven't shown them in this series yet, and Resurrection, and the list just goes on. There's a lot of those bands that released albums around the early 90s. I think need more attention because they got overlooked quite a lot back in the day. And with this series, I'll be showing a lot of those because when I go through my collection again, I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's a classic that didn't get the recognition it deserved. Same with Winter and Into Darkness. I don't think that got a lot of recognition back in the day because things I've just said already. There's so many underrated classics that do need more attention. And if you are that old school death metal fan out there and you don't have these albums yet, pick them up, listen to them. You will not regret it. You will not. And thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all the support. Keep that banner of metal held high. Another episode of My Favorite Death Metal Bands next Wednesday. More Metal Vault videos. This one coming this Saturday, the other one next Tuesday, and so on and so forth. Thank you once again, and I will see you all in the next one.